to talk about. But in the last 24 hours or so, there's been a lot of news coming around Ruben Amorim, Manchester United, but mainly on the Crystal Palace front. So, what's come out with the BBC today is that Crystal Palace boss Oliver Glasner is yet to sign a new contract, having delayed his decision to see how ambitious the club were in the summer transfer market. They went on to make £16 million profit with a fairly quiet window. Obviously, the Eze sale is a big part of that. And the Europa League demotion, and only one of their new signings in Yeremy Pino has actually started a Premier League game since the signings. And insiders are now saying the chances of him staying are becoming remote, obviously with his contract up at the end of this season. Palace haven't given up hope, but Glasner is attracting attention elsewhere. Bayern Munich are keeping tabs, but they're still happy with Vincent Kompany, whereas multiple sources suggested that he will be on the list to replace Ruben Amorim at Manchester United should Amorim be sacked. Although Old Trafford sources are still insisting that they're standing by their guy for now. But obviously with the way it's going on at Old Trafford, it's not looking good for him. Sky Sports has said that there's been positive discussions between Palace and Glasner about a potential new contract, and that will step up during the international break. But it's thought that he wants assurances about how serious Palace are at building the success they've seen under Glasner. But Robbie, I want to ask you, amid links to Iraola, Southgate, Glasner as like the main front three contenders to make the job, is Glasner actually the guy that can stabilise United, get the players playing well, or are there better options out there?
Listen, he definitely stabilised United, I think. You know, when you look how he's played, you look what he's done at Crystal Palace. And let's remember, he had quite a slow start at Palace, right, as well. But look what he's done. I mean, you can't argue with the record. He's won them their first trophy. He's got them playing really, really well. And this is despite them losing, top players. Then you look at Ruben Amorim, it's actually the other way around. The top players are playing well since they've left. Like, I note that, seeing Rasmus Højlund last night scoring a really excellent brace. So I think that Oliver Glasner is the sort of guy that would stabilise Manchester United. Would he be the long-term guy, though? That's the thing. That's a hard one to answer, but certainly, I do feel when you see what he's done, the body of work, when you see how well organised Crystal Palace are as a football team, he would definitely stabilise, in my opinion, would stabilise Manchester United, because at the moment they're all over the place, and you don't know what you're going to get from week to week in Man United. You really don't. You could get a good week, then you can get 2 horrible weeks. And I was saying this the other day. I was chatting to a United fan and I was saying this. I look at that team. It was after the loss at the weekend against Brentford, and I know you're a big United fan as well. And he said to me, he goes, Robbie, all the players are poor. They're rubbish. And I looked at that team and I'm like, Brian Mbeumo, Mateus Cunha, Bruno Fernandes, Kobe Mainu, Mateus De Ligt, right? These are not poor players. Mm-hmm. When I look at those players compared to Brentford's players, all of them would walk straight into Brentford's team. All of them would walk into most teams. How are they? You haven't, at Manchester United, got loads and loads of poor players. You might be able to look at the odd player and question whether he's to that level. Lenny Yoro, all these are not poor players. It's not a side full of like poor players. So there's something wrong, right? And you can't as always just say, right, it's right at the top at the moment. Those players should be performing better, right? 100% they should be performing better. So if you've got a manager in like Glasner, I think they would. That's just my opinion.
Alex, you obviously see United, and I think you sometimes, you enjoy the fact that United are playing poorly, but you've seen Crystal Palace. You came up against Glasner's Crystal Palace recently, and obviously you would have seen kind of firsthand they are on 18 games unbeaten now, which is crazy. And obviously they beat you; they're the first team to beat you this season. How do you, watching Glasner's Palace, being a side and a manager who generally they're getting like 30 to 35% possession in games? Is that the kind of manager that United should be looking for? Because when Glasner sometimes has had more possession, like they've got 50-55% possession, they've not played well. The 2 games before they started this unbeaten run, they got beaten, I think, 5-0 and 5-2 when they had more possession. As soon as they became a bit more of a team that stood there and then absorbed the pressure and then came out the blocks, it became better. Is that the kind of manager that United should be going for?
I think the offer would be too good for him to turn it down, regardless of if he's the right fit or not. He would say yes to that job, and it seems like he's kind of holding off for that job. I would say his style with 3 at the back is pretty similar to what Amorim's is, which isn't working, as we can all see for the last 10 months or however much it's been. And I just think there's too many similarities. They're both managers who play the way they play. There's no room for kind of negotiation on that. It's a bit of a non-negotiable. This is my system. How many times have we seen Amorim say it? And I think if Glasner went to United again, I still don't think the manager is the biggest problem there. I think it's probably most definitely the owners, and just it's rotten from top to bottom.
But the owners ain't on the pitch. They ain't on the pitch.
I know,
Alex.
but with Glasner, I think just enjoy the ride. You're in Europe with Crystal Palace. See out the journey. You know, you've rebuilt an amazing squad there, and you know, like you said, they've beaten Liverpool twice this season already. They've definitely got our number. I think a better fit would be Iriola, who has a little bit more possession and is more progressive. I think this is almost the system that isn't currently working for United, and you'd be replacing it with the same system again. Obviously, he'd look to get different players in, but I think he should definitely stay at Palace for the rest of this season. See how far he can get in Europe.
I agree with that, but what I'd say to you, right, is that, and I keep hearing that argument about the owners. Yes, owners are terrible there. Yes, over the years, neglect and, you know, just making terrible decisions along the way has been a big problem at Manchester United. But when you look at the players that they currently have, a good manager should be able to get better out of them.
Sure.
The manager at the moment is not getting the best out of those players. Kobe Mainoo's gone backwards because of what's been going on, not from the owners, but from the manager. It's the manager who's decided not to pick him or to play him in the wrong positions or in the wrong system, right? So I just believe that Glasner, long term, I think, you know, if Glasner stuck to that style of football, United fans, once he did stabilise it, United fans wouldn't be having that style of football. United has got a long history of attacking football, of entertaining, exciting football. Manchester United fans expect their teams to dominate teams, to outscore teams. So long term he wouldn't. But if you're saying just come in and stabilise it, I think he would. I just get the feeling that it doesn't seem to me with Ruben Amorim like he's getting the best out of players. Because I see too many Manchester United players leave that club, whether it be Rashford, whether it be what's the Brazilian's name? Anthony, Rasmus Højlund, Scott McTominay, all these players leaving and then balling out elsewhere. But probably if Mainoo leaves, we'll see the same thing. Like, he's not getting the best out of what he's got. What he's got is not good enough to win the league, but it's still good enough to do something. And I just don't think he's getting the best out of them at the moment, right? And I think that's pretty obvious to see. His lack of flexibility. So, and Areola long-term would be better. But remember when Areola first came in?
He didn't start well at Bournemouth.
He was struggling at Bournemouth.
They're having sack talks after 8 games.
Yeah.
Remember they played us and it was almost do or die for him.
Yeah.
And we got red card. They ended up beating us and he's gone on to do great things.
Yeah, and that's the thing sometimes in management as well, like, is that certain managers suit certain clubs. Mm-hmm. Manchester United, a completely different animal to managing Bournemouth or Crystal Palace. How many of you, does anybody remember Crystal Palace's last press conference? Did you see it? Was you interested in it?
Were there 3 interviews a week with Sky, TNT, and all the club media and everything?
Yeah, it's a completely different. Like when you're managing Man United, every quote, every press conference, everything you do is scrutinised, not just here in the UK but around the world. Palace, you're under the radar. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know what it is, right? Sometimes you see these clubs and you be like, oh, Palace are playing really well at the moment, right? I'm not saying they are playing really well at the moment. And what's it, 18 unbeaten?
18 games unbeaten, yeah.
How many of those have been draws?
I'd say 6, maybe.
Yeah, there's been a few draws in there because like you were technically a draw in Community Shield. I think the other game was a draw. They drew to us in there. So there's not wins, but I think one thing that I would say when...
Yeah, sorry, just Jack, just so it goes, before it goes to you. So if that was Man United.
They're playing tonight, by the way. Dinamo Kiev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that was Man United, if that was Liverpool, if that was Arsenal, right? Out of those 18 unbeaten, we then start to break it down. Yeah, but 8 of those are draws. Yeah, you know, we're 18 unbeaten, but we ain't playing well. But that, you get me? Whereas, you know, we're just looking at it and saying, Palace 18 unbeaten, absolutely incredible. It's a different pressure when it's like when you're at a club like Man United. The scrutiny is off the scale. And so that I don't know if long term he'd be the right guy, but certainly at the moment he would definitely come in and stabilise it.
He'd raise the floor of what United have, and I think get the baseline performance better. Chuddy Eden says, if Glasner leaves while keeping Gay from us, that would be crazy. P.S. You surprisingly got my name right while AGT butchered it. Love from the US. Big up. Thank you for the super chat. But yeah, that is kind of true, I guess. If Glasner made sure that Palace didn't get that £35 million for Gay when you bid it on deadline day, then left. That'd be a bit of a bit that would hurt Palace. I think that definitely would. But Jack, I want to come to you on this and ask you more. Who else is out there that could be a better appointment for United if Amorim were to leave than Glasner, or is he top one?
For me, he's the best option. I think a lot of people I think people get a bit confused with formation and system. He plays the same formation as Amorim. He doesn't play the same system. Like, he has wing backs that are wing backs. You know, Amorim's playing a left-footed right winger in Ahmad sometimes at right back. And one thing that I really do like about Glasner is he does adapt his system. Like, Dachi Kamada signs for them last season on a free, unanimously being voted one of the worst signings Palace have ever made, even though they didn't pay a penny for him. So then they drop him into the midfield next to Wharton, and all of a sudden they love him. Like, when's Amorim doing that with Bruno? He's just going to keep playing him in the same position. At least he makes those tweaks. The only thing that I do kind of agree with you guys is about the pressure of stepping up. We're going to talk about there's been links to Xavi. At least he's someone that walks in that dressing room and everyone looks at him, no matter who you are, and goes, oh my God, that's Xavi. Like, I've got presence in the press conference. I've got presence in the dressing room. And I think you need that at United. It's very easy to get swallowed by the media and what it is to be Man United. And Glasner does have that, I think. I mean, was it Liverpool, AGT, that he came out and was like, play like that and we'll beat you? And then did it.
Yeah.
No, it was Palace. Sorry, it was Man City in the
Man City,
in the league,
yeah.
and then they played them in the FA Cup final, and he said, basically,
play like you did in the league and we'll beat you again. And he went and did it. And then he had the whole thing with, it takes a lot on deadline day to put your on the table and say, well, if you sell our best centre-back, like, I'm walking. Like that does take some guts. So he's got something about him.
Look at
but
his big game record for Palace as well. The FA Cup final, I know the Community Shield isn't technically a trophy, but Liverpool in the league now, you know, he plays well against the big teams. It's more like the draws that let Palace down. They draw a lot of games, don't they? But if Gahey did leave in the summer and then Glasner followed him, the timing probably wouldn't have worked out for him to join United anyway, because you're obviously going to give Amorim this season. But it depends when you decide to get rid of him, if you even do. I mean, it's going to cost you 12 mil to do so.
Yeah.
At least that. So, I mean, do you risk it? Is he going to be another manager who takes on the Poison Chalice job? Is he going to be another promising manager like an Amorim who goes there and all rival fans think this could be the one that actually works out? But then he doesn't. And then again, he goes into the scrap heap and you go again. But I do think he's proven in the Premier League that if he gets I mean, look at the budget that he's working on as well. Imagine if you just scale it up, how good his signings could be if he gets 250 mil behind him. Would you be worried if he went to United? Do you think they could come back?
Glasner?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried. I just think what you said, he'd stabilise them. I wouldn't be worried.
They have to stabilise first before
listen, United have got a lot of work to do. It's a bit like at Arsenal. When Mikel Arteta took over at Arsenal, he had a huge task ahead of him, right? First of all, how do you change the culture at the club?
That can take years.
That could take a couple of years, right? That was his first task, right? Trying to change the culture, trying to even just get them winning a few games, changing things, you know what I mean? Like, I remember as an Arsenal fan, I'd go away to somewhere like Brentford, you know, no disrespect to them, and I'm just like, I'll take a point.
Yeah.
Right? When I go away to them places now, I'm like, I expect us to win. Whether we win or not is a different matter, but that's my expectations. He's changed that culture. I think that's what's needed at United. First of all, see where you're at and start changing it. I think my personal opinion of Ruben Amorim is his lack of flexibility, where he just come into the Premier League and he's just like, it's my way, I'm this. No, you're not Jose Mourinho. first of all, win some games. Get those players feeling confident. Get the fans feeling good. Ollie did it for a while, didn't he? Remember, Ollie, he had a little, remember the train? What was it?
Ollie's at the wheel.
Ollie's at the wheel. Ollie's at the wheel and all that.
When we were winning 5-0,
you know what?
we were singing that.
Yeah.
You know, but remember, he had a
Put the contract on the table, let him write whatever number he wants, sign
but
it.
remember with Ollie, right?
It felt great.
Outrageous.
Yeah,
It felt great.
He was winning games, and he was got in the United fans behind it. Ultimately, he ran out of steam because he weren't that manager. But all he did basically was just said, "Yeah, we're just going to get a system to go, and we're going to win. We're going to try and it was quite exciting, and it was like, you know, United fans were getting behind him, and they were believing. Ultimately, he wasn't good enough to push it right through. But I just look at Ruben Amorim, and I'm like, it's not working at the moment.